Yay! Here we are. Just just look at us. Nobody knows anything. There's so much freedom in not knowing. Just relax for a moment. Take a breath. Exhale. You don't need to know anything right now, do you? What's it like just to be? To not go to thought? Is there something here that doesn't need a thought, doesn't depend on thoughts? Because if I'm depending on my thoughts for my happiness, I notice I'm not very happy. And the unknowing is like a magic space, and it's always available, unknowing. But it kind of out of habit, we just habitually go to thought. It's almost as if we don't know about the space until somebody says, "Well, actually, you can do it. You can actually, it's actually possible to notice what's here other than thought."
It's really simple.
Yeah.
That's it. Allowed to say.
No, Addie, you're absolutely right because if it's already, I mean, what could be simpler than already? So the little tricky part is you may notice the mind is conditioned to want to label this, right? So we have these fancy words, awareness, consciousness, wholeness, all that is, just this. But I would say I wouldn't recommend focusing on the word. Like that's sort of not the point if there was one. So because it's not label, this doesn't have a label. So nobody knows this because you wouldn't even know what to call it. It's empty.
Yeah, words are life's sloppy seconds.
Yeah, that's it. Like Course in Miracles, right? Twice removed.
Mhm.
Yes.
Like a thought is a reflection about a reflection, you know? So there's a reflection, and then there's like thinking about the reflection, reflecting on the reflection. And that could be very mesmerizing. Like you could get lost in that for decades and lifetimes. But if it resonates that there's something that's looking at these things that you don't notice, you know? You don't notice that there's something here that is aware of the thought. I can ask this question. Is the thought aware of you, or are you aware of the thought? Yeah, unmute, Manny.
You're aware of the thought.
Yeah, do you get the sense that the thought even knows you exist?
No, it
Yeah,
doesn't.
yeah.
That's like the metaphor of, in a way, of when you have a dream of a butterfly and you wake up, and then you could say, what happens to the butterfly? Well, the butterfly is gone. But the question that was asked, a couple thousand years ago is, what if the butterfly is dreaming of you and the butterfly wakes up? Then you're fucked.
So, like you notice, even to tell a story, we have to use labels, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the confusion is that when we think what we are has a label, that's really it. And you can feel into that. How does that feel when you sit here without labels? I mean, at the risk of being controversial to the radicals, I would say it's a practice. I would say that the more time you spend noticing what's ever present that has no name,
The radicals.
well, because there are some, those that say, well, there's no one to practice, so what are you talking about? Right? But I wouldn't say that here.
The fundamentalists.
Yeah, okay, sure, why not? But I I'm just saying if it resonates, if what I'm sharing resonates, then you might try it on. You might go, well, what is here that doesn't need any description? That's always here, rain or shine.
Oh my fucking god, Michael. It's
What?
crazy.
What?
I know. It's like wow.
Yeah, it's almost like you got like this still water, like this unmoving, clean, crystal clear water. And the words and the thoughts are almost like dumping a bunch of mud into that water.
Oh, come on, you want to say it more. Go ahead. The shit show.
I I was gonna say I'll partake in the shit show. I'll partake in this mess. And yeah, I mean, if you want to tell a story, I mean, it is like that, it's sitting here without labeling anything, without thought, without words. Yeah, there's this piece.
Exactly. So you've discovered that for yourself, right? That's what I mean by direct experience. So if you investigate it for yourself more and you say, well, that's kind of interesting because when I'm sitting here without going to a thought, not needing an explanation for anything, I notice there's some peace. And so that can become like an addiction, just like anything else. You can start to get addicted, and boy, I don't think you're going to have a better addiction. The present becomes more and more interesting to you, and your thoughts become less and less interesting.
There's nothing in them for you, and like it's like they're just dying, their future thing, and
You know, like just whether if you believe them or not, they're still not leading you anywhere. They're still just, yeah.
It was hard to hear you, Addie. You were breaking up a little, my dear.
Oh, okay.
We don't want to
Um,
miss a single word. Could you restate it?
oh, like the thoughts, they just don't know what they're talking about, you know? It doesn't matter if you believe them or not, they're still not leading you anywhere. There's still no future in which you're going to get what you're looking for. There's still just this. And they're just randomly appearing, and there's this ghost that's somehow believing them, thinking it's going to get somewhere that's other than this. It's just crazy. Crazy.
Yeah.
What will she say? She's typing.
I think Alice is typing.
I'm
I
sorry.
think she's about to say something.
No.
Wait.
You know, it comes as kind of a shock when you suddenly it dawns on you that, my God, what if I'm okay just the way I am?
Yeah.
This is almost so obvious. You can't believe other people can't see that. Like, you can't believe you couldn't see it. It's just like, what?
No, it's like being neurotic is the flu and everybody has it.
That's crazy. Like, why would you need to be any different? Like, why would they would even question why that would even be a thing?
Yeah, it's almost like if you're not neurotic, what's wrong with you?
There's nothing wrong with being neurotic. That's also
Whatever.
that's this too. That's this too. It's not better to be not neurotic than to be neurotic. It's all this. It's okay to be neurotic. Perfect.
Yes, John.
Totally okay already. Always.
Yay.
Yay. Like really.
Leave it to Don.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, yes, Don. Being neurotic is this too. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Right?
And there's the freedom.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
could be neurotic as all get go and crazy, and yet you're totally okay, like you were saying, just as you are. You and your neuroses, okay, just as you are.
Yeah.
I love this stuff. Like, yeah.
What neuroses?
Yep, neuroses is just another label for this.
So, something I've wrestled with in the past is that on one hand, we could say that when we're not paying attention to thoughts or not believing in thoughts, there is that kind of peace or serenity or whatever seems to be there. But there's another way I've thought about it, and kind of going to what Don said, is that if that peace is kind of experienced, whatever that would mean, that we can begin to look for it or make it like it's special. And once we do that, even though it feels good, then I wonder then if we're just putting ourselves back into this versus that. And and I kind of remember when and Kosi used to be on, the real emphasis at everything is just this, without a distinction or without making anything could be there and everything is fully inclusive, but there's no state that is better or worse than any other. It's just what is. So I'm not saying anybody's wrong or right, but it's stuff I think about because I'm always hearing I'm hearing two different things in a way. Maybe they're not really different, but anyway, it's just stuff I kind of wonder about in terms of if we start looking for peace or we look for a state. I just wonder if that makes it more special than everything else. And I'm just thinking out loud. I'm not drawing any real conclusion, but it's just stuff that swirls around.
Come on, Don, tell him. Making it special is this too.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, doesn't it feel more preferable to feel peace? Not that there's anything to gain from it, or I mean, if there's something to gain from it, it's the peace itself. So yeah, so you could say that anger and peace and sadness are all just this. I mean, any story could be told. But I mean, here it just seems to be preferred to live in peace. And so I mean, some people get to that peace from going to church, or Muslims, they'll pray, and people get to it from different routes. Here we're talking about clearing the mind, going beyond thought, or even words. They're all equally the shit show. But this is just our apparent route to get to this peace. There's nothing to gain from it. We're not special because it's not like we figured something out here. So we're more special than the others.
Yeah, well, you could say that the only thing that you figure out is that there's nothing to figure out.
And leave it at that.
Well, the figuring out just becomes not yours. It still goes on. The mind's still going to want to figure shit out. That's what it does.
Yeah.
But the mistake was I thought it was me doing it. That was the suffering. And then when you see you're not involved, you're always the witness, so to say. You're always observing.
So preferences show up, and that's what's there too. And paradoxically, there's also one could say, or I could say, I will do this in order to get that, and I could use the same language, but once I do that, there's also, and there's a paradox here. Then I'm reinforcing, I'm claiming it, it's me doing it, and it reinforces the me. And I know that's fully included too. So there's a paradox in that. But it just reminds me sometimes that even in meditation, it could be like a dog chasing its tail. Because we'll say the more I meditate, the further I'll get. And it's like it goes round and round. And of course, I never get the tail because I'm moving round and round. It's just paradoxical because preferences, sure, it appears as preferences. And there's also even the sense of there being a me could get kind of reinforced. I'm just thinking different ways of looking at it. That's all.
Well, you never get the tail because there's no tail to get.
Yes, ultimately, yes. You're right, Amor.
Yes, I would say there's nothing to get.
Yeah.
Is there even a mouth to grab the tail?
Or there's everything to get.
Who would get it?
Life, present, get. You get it all. I'd say it's meant to be gotten.
Michael, you
Manny understands.
or not. Yeah.
Addy.
Michael, you sort of said that we're the awareness that sees the thoughts, right? It's sort of seen here that we're the awareness and we're the opinions. There's not somebody having the opinions. We are the opinions. We are the awareness. We are the there's not two.
Yeah, there's no
We're all,
name. What I actually said was it doesn't matter if you call it awareness or consciousness. I'm saying the name doesn't matter because you can never nail the, you know what I mean? You'll
oh,
never, it's a freedom, Amor, you know, because then you're free to call it a shit show or beautiful or Leela. You know what I mean? Like the word is really, the word is a production. It doesn't produce anything.
hmm.
Yeah.
What a shit show.
You know, so there's like a practicality to this, right? Because now you can listen to all kinds of different points of view. You know, Republicans, Democrats, conservatives, you know, whatever, you know, because you're no longer hanging on to a particular view. So you're more open just to listening and getting other perspectives, and they're beautiful. You may not agree with it. I may not agree with it. It's still beautiful.
Don, what's that little charm on your necklace? I was looking at it earlier. I was wanting to see your necklace.
It's a it just it elongates the exhale. You breathe in through your nose and breathe out through this little tube. It elongates the exhale and stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system in the body and calms down. It's very beautiful. During the day, you feel calm, peaceful, non-dual.
Ha 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 ha.
Sorry, I had to say that.
Of
Yeah,
course.
you'll have to tell me, how does non-dual feel?
There's definitely some miserable non-dualists too. Don't.
I am a non-dualist, guys.
Non-dualist. The non-dual society.
I'll be loyal.
You know, it's like instead of going to thought and story, right? So that's the norm, the habit. And I'm kind of beating that drum tonight at this meeting because I see it so powerfully that there's like robotic habit that we're not aware of just knee-jerk going to thoughts. I see it when I get up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. A song will start playing in my head out of nowhere. And I know I'm not doing that, but it seems to be happening. And so there began to be a relaxation about any thought.
Yeah, it's that the thoughts. Again, if you get up in the middle of the night, you're having and all these thoughts invade. It's like that sets up again the dual part of it. There's you and there's the thoughts. And I was thinking here, maybe the thoughts not being separate that we are the thoughts. They're not separate. They're not to be not looked
Yeah.
at or do whatever you want to do. But
Yeah.
it's not even to do anything with them. They are, the thoughts are us.
They are, but I'm going to make a distinction because I don't come and go. Thoughts do.
But true. Okay. But you don't know that you don't come and go. Every moment in some of the, I think, Hindu philosophy, Harvey could explain it, but where in every moment, every breath that Shiva takes, you're born and then you die every microsecond on that level. So to say that we're here and the thoughts come and go, but we don't, it appears that way in how in the reality that we live in. But I don't necessarily would say that that's true. That
Okay.
we might be as fleeting as the thoughts.
Yeah.
I'm serious. I'm not.
No.
Oh, okay.
This is the type of meeting that there's no need to agree. It doesn't.
Right.
That sounds good.
So I want to hear Harvey talk about that too.
Well, I mean, in Hindu philosophy, which is really an umbrella term for like 1,000 different philosophies, which may not even a lot of them don't agree with each other. But in one, there's a what's called a core essence, like the I am or the I, which is always there, the Atman, okay, which eventually is going to merge with Brahman, which is really all the same. So there's that constancy of what appears as could say the I amness, and it's always there. And thoughts come and things change, but the I am it's there as a core essence. Okay. Another way of looking at it in some of the Buddhist theory is that every moment is born and it's dying exactly simultaneously, so that everything is so complete that there is no real birth or death. It just is. And there is no next moment because there is no next. Everything is boom, boom, boom. Like on on film, when you look at a frame, it's complete exactly as it is. And it appears that there's continuity between one frame and another, but it's actually just complete. So you could say they're both right or not. I mean, nobody really knows. And I would throw one other thing too, because I think both of the different views, it's very interesting to really contemplate it. And an approach I kind of and this just works sort of, I'll say for me, quote unquote, is to just notice what's happening, whatever that is. And that's what's here. If there's preferences, that's what is. If my leg hurts, that's what is. If I feel peace, that's what is. If I feel like I'm going to meditate, that's what is. And then I don't worry. As that unknowing, I don't need to know. It's just, there is just whatever is appearing. And there's like a kind of surrendering to whatever's showing up. And then is there that constancy of I am, or is it just a complete birth, death simultaneously? Don't know for sure. Don't necessarily even need to know. But they're both just sort of the different, I'll call it views, even in Hinduism and even in Buddhism, to an extent. But what is the answer? I don't know. Don't need to know. But it's very fascinating, though.
It's a miracle.
Yeah.
Going back to we said this before, but going back to what Michael said, when you look at the ocean and you see the ocean waving, it's waves, and the waves appear to have a birth because they come forth, they have a life, they'll do what they do, and then they die. But in actuality, it appears like there's birth, life, and death, and yet there never was a wave that was born, had a life and death. It always was the water. It's not part of the water. It is the water. So you could look at it that way, that the water is like the I am, if we really want to stretch the metaphor. Um, but in the end, it is just what shows. In a way, it's like I just look at the immediacy of what is,
Mhm.
and not know what the if there's a real meaning in it or not. And then you just turn the page, so to speak, and see what shows up next. And you're not and there is no you turning the page. It's just every moment is complete, absolutely complete, just as it is.
That's beautiful. The page is turning itself. That is so beautiful. Thank you. It's like life is just turning itself. It's just happening.
Yeah,
It's so beautiful. Thank you for that.
yeah. Another way, and I've said this before, but another way of looking at it, and this is not really, it's just another metaphor, that when you read a book and you get really into a book and you go, I can't wait to see what happens to the characters in the next chapter, you can't wait to get back to it. And you have all these theories, this character should do this and this should happen. But in the end, what really happens? You turn the page and then you find out. And you don't really know what's going to be on the next page. You can think about what it might be, but you wonder what will be on the next page. And then you find out. And that's why we read fiction, and because the excitement of not knowing makes it more exciting.
Addie, do we have a new friend joining us?
This is my brother. Hello, brother. Say hello.
Hello.
Bruh, my brother's an asshole.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's like, it's like everybody's going to have their own way of describing it. Yeah. So there can be a appreciation for the different, like you said, Harvey, the waves. You can enjoy the waves. It doesn't have to look like your wave. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Every wave can be different, like all of us, and each wave has its own persona, so to speak. Um, and you can wonder if each wave thinks I am the wave, then you have separation. But there could be a realization among the waves that every wave, they're all the water. And so maybe the waves would treat each other better if they realized it's all
Well,
the ocean.
exactly. Yeah. So this meeting is in a way about that. It's the recognition that you're already the ocean, but the waves continue. It's not the end of the waves. It's just appreciating you're like, oh,
Yeah. One way too, if you if you're on the surface of the water and it could be very turbulent and you're bouncing around on the water. But if you go down into the water, there is that stillness, and you could look up and see the waves on the surface. And if you wanted to use that I am approach, you could say, as you sink backwards and move back, you're moving back into that I amness, or moving into the depth of the water. And yet the water is still rippling around, but there's that seeing, in a sense, of or experiencing the stillness, which still allows the ripples to be there, because the stillness and the ripples are not really separate. Just another way of moving back into the I am, if you take that approach. But what's good about all these different views? I find there's like an excitement, because you don't know which is the answer, and you don't need to. It's like you're, I don't know, it's like you're just playing. It's like you're on a roller coaster and you don't really know what's going to happen. And then you just find out.
mhm.
Maybe it's the I am, maybe there is no I am, but that's the excitement of life unfolding, or freedom, or whatever you would call it, in all these infinite ways. And that's not separate from you, because it is, I wouldn't even say you, but it's that excitement of all possibilities could come forth.
I like what you said, Harvey. You know, being like the water deep down, it's more calm, and it looks up at the chaos above it,
Yeah.
and it's all just the water.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we could say, Harvey, that's a really good analogy for what I was sharing earlier about this meditation. In a way, we could say that the waves represent thoughts. So if you look at an ocean, there's a shitload of thoughts, shitload of waving. And then, like you said, all of a sudden, somehow someone says something to you, you read a book, you watch a video, but something turns your head and goes, well, have you ever looked down here? And you're like, well, no, actually, not really. And you start to get curious about what's at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah. And there's that quietness as you sink into the water. There's a quietness of that stillness. And so the thoughts are, or the ripples are still there. They may be there, but now it's not like, yeah, they're there. And yet from that view, metaphorically, you're seeing it. That's the observer or the observing, not that there's a separate observer, but there's a seeing of it. And there's an okayness, but not okay versus not okay. It's just what's there.
And this is all just an apparent illusion of the ocean.
Absolutely. You're right. Amor, you're totally correct. Totally correct.
And the ocean, I love this analogy of the ocean. So the ocean is one, and the wave comes to the shore, and then there's a little water that goes up and creates a little, a little sinkhole. Okay. And it looks like it's separate from the ocean, right? It looks like it's separate. It's a little far away and it's just sitting there. And even though it's the ocean, it is distinct because here's how beautiful the thought is. A thought is represented by this little puddle of water, is because then these little children come and they go and they play in this water and they make sand castles and they squeal and they are just exuberant. It's like life just exploding because they think that this water is separate. And that is beautiful, but it's still just the water. So the water comes out of the ocean and it can express as somewhat as an individual thing for the benefit and prosperity of all. And maybe our thoughts are the same way. That we can play in our thoughts, that our thoughts are for us to play with. We can play in the thoughts. The thoughts are there for our joy, for our upliftment, for our enlightenment. Just another way of looking at it. I mean, the thoughts, I've always been with no thoughts are no good, no good, no good, get rid of them, that kind of stuff. But maybe thoughts are beautiful. Maybe thoughts are just really absolutely beautiful, trying to communicate the oneness to us because they are the oneness. They're coming from the oneness. So what else could they be expressing? At 3 a.m, when you wake up and the thoughts tell you you're no good and you're horrible and I want to die and all that. Maybe that's the oneness saying, hey, wake up.
Holy shit. Look at Addie. Oh my God, Addie, you're going to end up on a YouTube short. Look at this woman. Bam. Yeah, that's it. Dawn's beautiful soliloquy, Addie zooming around her bedroom on a scooter.
The good thing about all these different like viewpoints, and Michael, you were alluding to it. The good thing is it's very easy sometimes to land somewhere, to land on a theory or land on a concept. And the value of all the dialoguing and hearing different things in a way is kind of telling you that, you can take a look. Did I land somewhere as if, okay, now I found it and I'm done? Or is it, hey, today I feel resonant with this, tomorrow there is a resonance with that. And and in a way, maybe they're all correct or they're all not correct, whatever. But the dialoguing itself, in a way, is meditation. It is meditation. It's not that we're meditating. That is we are meditation, if you want to look at it that way. And even that is just a lot of words. I was also going to say too, when Don, you're saying about the thoughts coming from oneness, I was just going to say, actually, you could say, instead of coming from oneness, if you were using the word oneness, you could say they are the oneness, because the coming from word, but there's a subtle distinction. It's subtle, but and even to say oneness, which we use, but even that, is it is that a thing or an entity, or is that just a word? It's just maybe a word, but maybe it's no word, or it's just this, even that.
I'm going to say something kind of crazy here. Um, unknowing is underrated. It's so potent. It has like magical qualities, but they don't reveal themselves until you actually spend time with her. It's falling in love with unknowing.
That's the love of uncertainty. I don't know what's going to happen next. There's no I. It's just life itself expressing itself in the moment. In the moment, it's funny the topic you were talking about, because I just pulled out an old book. What's wrong with right now unless you think about it?
Sailor Bob?
Yeah, Sailor Bob. Yeah,
No way, dude. You're
yeah.
killing me. Because I'm about to tonight. I part of my homework with Jenny, because Jenny raved about Cat's uh songs with
Mhm.
Sailor Bob. Like he doesn't really speak anymore, but Jenny was saying that she's on fire.
She's doing. She does well. Yeah. Um, she's learned a lot from him. Is what I could say. And she's doing the best she can, just like all our. I saw Sailor Bob down in I think it was Santa Rosa or down there when he was in the States.
Oh, you sat with
It-
Sailor Bob?
well, he was right next to me, waiting for the room to get set up so that he could go in and talk. Me and my wife, and he was right next to me, and we were talking about that because he was just came from Chicago. He was with Joan Tollefson
Uh-huh. Yeah.
before then, so he made the rounds and stuff. But what's his name? The guy, oh, John
Wheeler?
Wheeler? John
Wheeler.
Wheeler?
Yeah,
John
I
Wheeler.
think John Wheeler was the one that was uh, put on the thing and had him at that venue, and then also at a bookstore down there the next day and stuff. So, but I'm just saying that he was just an ordinary man, just very, oh, but well versed in Nisargadatta, you know, that kind of a thing.
Is he a sailor?
He
Yes.
was, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard the incredible story today. Jenny was telling me. So there's like a 50-year age gap. Like he's in his 90s, like mid 90s or I know.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
she's, you know, in her late 40s or, whatever. And
Maybe 50, yeah.
yeah, and they got married. And, she said, well, someone has to take care of them, and I love them.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. And yeah, they have the YouTube stuff going on, things, but yeah. Anyway, it was interesting going back to the book because a lot of the things are they're right there with the same things. And I did want to say, because we're talking about preferences, uh, this this Manny has preferences. I was at a meeting the other day where the leader of the meeting brought up that we should all talk about our pasts and how we were affected by alcoholics and substance abuse, that kind of thing. And as we went around and afterwards, I said, "Isn't this a glum lot?" Because after you bring up these war stories and stuff that you went through, because thought has a weight to it,
Mm-hmm.
has a weight. And
Mm-hmm.
and I'd rather not prefer that going back into this past, even though it's included, everything's included.
Yeah.
And
So
but it
Manny,
doesn't, yeah, go ahead.
brother, that's exactly what you're saying is the whole reason I do these meetings, because I saw you don't have to hang on to the past.
No,
You don't.
no,
It's not here.
that's
Look
right.
look around right now. Seriously, look around right now. I mean, really look. Do you see any remnants of a past here?
No, I get that. I really do. But how do you explain it to somebody that's not wanting to give it up? Not wanting to see that it's just thought and concepts and an idea of who I think I am.
Yeah. So
But it's not.
it's
I guess
very
that's the
normal.
question. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Addie, go ahead.
I guess that's the question. How do you talk about it? And about, I guess, why we're all here.
Well, I talk about it here. You're my peeps.
Mm-hmm.
You're family. You get it. I learned, and it wasn't immediately, I learned that to the rest of the so-called world, this sounds completely insane. They're not interested in not having a me. They've got things to do. They have a life that they
That's
believe.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we say here for those that have ears to hear.
Yeah.
A lot of people who go through trauma or talk about the past and they'll say, I'm hurting, I'm suffering from it. I want to get rid of this suffering. And I've noticed, because I talk to about 100 people a week, that a lot of people will say those words, but in a way, that's their identity, that's the me. And they would
Definitely.
rather hold on to it because it's known, they know what they have, okay, even with the suffering. And so there's a paradox, a contradiction. They'll say they want to get rid of it, but another part of them doesn't. It's like a person who's
No.
abused. A person who's abused will often go back to the next person who will do the same thing.
Mhm.
And because that feeling of at least I know what I have, that's what you'll hear. Rather than saying stepping into the unknown, of saying, well, I don't know, but there's the freedom of stepping out into the space of pure possibility. But most people will keep
Oh,
regressing back to what they
yeah.
know.
But Harvey, beautiful. Love everything you said. And I would add that the revelation here was I never did know.
Mm.
So it's like if a kid plays pretend, what's the problem? If a little boy says, "Oh, I'm, Long John Silver," and the little boy believes that. You know what I mean? Like you can just let people be as they are. If somebody asks you about it, then
Mhm.
you have an invitation. But otherwise, you know,
And that,
That
and that's
more
the point.
that more shows them than anything else. That love is, it reminds them of something familiar almost.
yeah,
It
exactly.
reminds them of something obvious that they are already loved. Boom.
I think, Mike, Michael, it's a good point, because very often, even if you're playing, somebody's like a therapist or whatever, you're trying to fix, change, or repair people. And you really don't need to, because sometimes people are just what they are. And sometimes it's acknowledging that's who they are until they're not. Or
Yeah,
and it's letting it be, letting be.
yeah, yeah. The hardest thing to do is to accept what you are right in the moment, and to see that that's where my attention is, and my attitude is created from those thoughts that are being presented right in that moment. And that's what I'm bringing to the table. If I have resentments, that's what I'm bringing to the table. And we were talking about preferences earlier, and I'd rather not have the weight of resentments, yet it's all included, just like we're saying, everything is included, yet to live in this body for as long as I'm going to live, I'd rather not be in pain, psychologically at least, believing in this avatar that's telling me it's out there when it's already here, present, and I'm content with it. Either I can be content with this moment, or I could be actually, like Harvey was saying, people enjoy the pain they're in because they love it and they keep it going. They perpetuate it with every other thought that's going on, and that's the victim mentality. It just goes on and on until it doesn't, until they see that there's another way. But it's all included, like everybody's saying. That too is, I, see, it's hard for me to say it's beautiful, yet that's the expression. That, that's the way it's being expressed in that being.
At the same time, everyone longs to fall in love. And fall in love is kind of the opposite of that. It's like falling into joy, falling into this. Yeah, you can't. It destroys that safety almost, and then people love it and hate it simultaneously, I guess.
Beautiful. That was beautiful speaking tonight, Manny. That was beautiful. Yeah, I love my pain.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really. I mean, it's just in the way that you were saying it. I just noticed. I just love it. It's familiar.
Yes.
I ground through the pain because it's familiar.
Doesn't want to die.
It doesn't want to die. I wouldn't know what to do without it. I'd have to let the page be turned, like Harvey was speaking about.
Yeah.
And so the page is trying to be turned, and I'm just pushing. Again, I'm standing on the page, not letting the page be turned. Yeah, oh boy.
Finally got it.
Boy, I need to go see a therapist quickly, or I'll come to the next meeting.
There it goes.
Yeah, it seems that human beings are unique, that we can feel, identify with pain or whatever emotion may come up and articulate it. You know, no other animal seems to be able to do that. It's sort of beautiful. You know, we're emotional creatures. We feel emotions. You know, we're able to articulate these emotions. You know, there's nothing.
Well, that's another beautiful way of looking at it. That was just like from left field. I love it. It was just like, I love it what you just said, Amor. That was just brilliant. This is brilliance. This is like brilliance. This is wisdom 101. Brilliance coming out of all these little squares on this machine.
Don is a lover of all.
Oh, God.
You know, when we talk about people with different characteristics, or people who are victims, here's a little something to think about. If you imagine a rose, a tulip, and a dandelion, and a lot of us would say, oh, the rose is better, or maybe the tulip is better. The dandelion, let's just whack it. And we might say that about people. But if we really look at it, the dandelion never says, "Oh, I wish I was the tulip," or "I wish I was the rose," and the tulip never says, "I wish I was the dandelion or the rose." Each thing is just what it is unto itself, complete and whole as it is, and it may look different, and it may look like there's suffering, but in the end, everything is just what it is. And if you think of that, then the dandelion is just as beautiful as the rose or the tulip.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
What a great.
It'd be like if a dandelion started randomly talking and was like, "I should be a rose." Just coming out of it. I would be better as a rose.
Mhm. Mhm.
I actually, to be honest, I learned that I was tripping on acid on not recently, but I was tripping on it, and I was actually looking at different flowers, and all of a sudden the realization that every flower, every blade of grass was just as sacred or whatever I'd call it as anything else. Everything just was what it is. And in that isness, it was sort of like, it was like a wow, because then nothing was more special than anything else. It just was. And yet, and yet there's still, you could say preferences or people have different opinions. But in the end, everything is just in that isness of unfolding or whatever. And again, those are just words.
Beautiful. Yes, you could, another way is it's all God, okay? It's all God, all Buddha, however you want to call it. And being all God, that includes all preferences.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And Michael, thank you. I gotta say, thank you for creating this space for this particular meeting, because this is a rare meeting. I'm not saying better than anything else. I don't mean it that way at all. But this is a rare meeting of where, like you said, we can all be the rose or the dandelion or the tulip, whatever we want to be, and be that. And those who think they're a rose here are allowing the dandelions to be the dandelion, and the dandelions are allowing the roses to be the roses. And this is this is special. This is like, there's ordinary, like in the church, there's ordinary time and sacred time in the church. This is sacred time to me. This hour, 6 to 7 on Wednesday, is sacred time, and I appreciate it. I want you all to know I appreciate it from the deepest part of me that I can touch at the moment. Really appreciate it, and love that you're all here playing this game, what I call, with me, that we're all doing this together. It's a special time.
We love you too, Don.
Thank you guys. To each and every one of you, Manny, Harvey, Don, Amor, Addie, Anon, everybody, have a great rest of your night. Thanks for coming.
You too.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.